Listen, we've got a superstar on the podcast today. Firstly, brother, welcome to the Dargan Podcast. This is episode number 21, if I believe. I'm usually always wrong with that, so whatever it is. But on the podcast, we have an absolute brother of mine. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of knowing this man for almost 12 months now. Mike came into my life and, you know, we worked on a coaching basis, and I like to think now we're absolute brothers and, you know, family for life, and that's the way I see it, and hopefully vice versa. So we have today on the podcast Mr. Mike Burton from Cleethorpes, Grimsby over in England. So Mike, how are you feeling today, brother? It's good to see you, mate.
Well, I'm absolutely over the moon to be asked to come on the podcast, because I think it's amazing that you've done a podcast, because I used to say, like, the information that you're giving out on Instagram or any of the platforms that you're on, like I said, you should be writing a book, you know, you should be selling it, you know, because it's just liquid gold, because you're just genuinely trying to encourage people to live their best life. And I'll be honest, I remember that first day when I had our first conversation and voice note, when I was saying, I just want to make a positive difference to the world. And I thought about doing it through social media, and you was just like, yeah, just fucking do it. Just do it. Pick your phone up, send a message, and then the rest will take care of itself. So 12 months. Wow, where has that gone?
I actually remember the first time that you reached out to me. I was in London. I was outside the post office, and I remember getting a message from you. And, you know, of course, like, you know, I get messages from a lot of people, and I think it's if you had to go back and tell that Daniel outside the post office that in 12 months' time you'd be sitting recording a podcast, that you know, you would have seen so much evolution, so much growth from an individual who's already done incredible things with their life. You know, I would have said, wow, like, I don't believe you, because it's been incredible. So I think for the audience, it's important for them to get an understanding of who you are. So I think firstly, that's like, who is, for anyone that hasn't seen your social media, for anyone that hasn't seen the Mike Burton, the motivational speaker, the Mike Burton that delivers the message every day, that lights people on fire, who is Mike Burton that people know? Who is the Mike Burton that social media sees?
Well, it's funny enough, because people talk about identity crisis, and as you know, I retired a few months ago, and I needed to find a purpose in my life. And I've been really struggling to go, right, who is Mike Burton? Because people used to say to me, what do you do? And I was like, apart from jump in the sea, you know, half naked, you know, when it's freezing cold in December, I said, you know, what I try and do is spread some positivity. So I narrowed it down to 3 things now. And I think Mike Burton is mental health ambassador, you know, motivational speaker, and, you know, proud dad and community man, just wanting to make a positive difference to everybody that I touch. And I say this all the time to people, is if we can leave every moment or environment that we interact with people better than we found it, then, you know, we can all make a massive difference to the world.
And why do you feel like that's your calling? Why do you in particular feel that there's gravitas to that for you?
I think I suppose we're going to cover a lot throughout this podcast, but I can always remember, which we'll go into at some point, when I got nominated for Pride of Britain and I made it to the last 3, and they came to film, and I'd been doing so much in my life, you know, and I'll be honest with you, subconsciously, not consciously, you know, just going day in, day out, not realising what I was doing. And they said to me, why are you doing all this charity work? Why are you helping people try and change their life through wellbeing programs? Why are you helping children who are most disadvantaged children in the country? And I said to them, you have to give me a minute, because I'd never stopped to think. And then what I realised is, for the vast majority of my childhood and my life, barring very few people, I didn't feel supported. So I just found myself trying to support everybody else. So that's when I first had our conversation, and I was at a football tournament in Filey, I remember it, and the only reason people say to me, how did you meet Daniel? And I said, I'll be honest with you, the algorithm must have seen 2 guys jumping in the sea and throw them together on the Instagram, because it was like, as you know, because I often, when I was looking at it thinking, I thought, I'm never going to have a coach. I don't want any of these, you know, I could never have an online coach, because I was always thinking to myself, it's just going to be all about, you know, don't take this the wrong way, because a lot of great guys, it's all about calorie deficit, you've got to do this. I was like, it has to be more. And I can remember sat there at the football tournament in Filing. I was just going up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I was jumping in the sea. And I can remember we had crap signal and you was WhatsApping each other. And you was like, yeah, you should do it. Because my therapist was like, Mike, you're retiring. You need to do something. And at that point, that kick-started the process in the mind. And that's where it all starts, as we know. Fast forward to the 6th day in Tenerife on my holiday, which is nearly a year ago. And I, silenced all of that negative voice inside, what would everybody think if, because I was asking myself, who's Mike Burton? Who's Mike Burton? Like that question you asked me. And I was like, it took 6 days and I felt so safe because I was in a different country, which I don't know why that is that way, but I was so safe. And I thought I could only say one thing. And I just wanted to make a positive difference to the world. And at that moment, I felt like, it was not enlightenment, but I felt like, right, I know. And I literally walked, jumped in the sea. And that's one of the only things I pinned to the top of my Instagram is me in this awful video, popping out the sea going, I want to make a positive difference to the world. And I can only do that by sending one message. And please share my messages, share a positive message with people in your life. And now 308 days on, I've sent a positive message every single day. And you've been there since day one, which is crazy. So I can't wait to go back to Tenerife this summer for 365 days to send my 365th message where it all began. So yeah, Mike Burton, putting it simply after that story is, I have one thing at the top of my vision board, and that is everything's dictated by it. Will it make a positive difference to the world? And if it is, I'm in.
Great. I absolutely love that, mate. I love that. So I can't wait to dive into that. So, mate, Mike, 40 years old, obviously loving dad to Charlie, loving husband to Marie, motivational speaker, retired at 40, super successful guy, making incredible progress with his fat loss journey, inspiring people around the nation, and being nominated for a Pride of Britain Award 2018, raised hundreds of thousands for charity. That's who you are now. Right, that's who you are now, and that just doesn't happen overnight, I'm sure, as you know. And everybody, people listening will want to hear, like, what was the start of that story like? Like, take me back to what I need to understand about the younger Mike, about Mike as a kid. Like, let's go back to your childhood, mate, and give me some context of what your childhood was like.
Wow. Right, you ready for this? And I'm going to do a little bit of a disclaimer here before we start. If anything that I'm about to say does trigger anybody, then just be aware there's some heavy stuff that might come out of this conversation. So hopefully you'll see the positive in at the end. So yeah, well, when I was young, I was born on mixed race, as you know. And anybody, hopefully, if they see any of the clips from this, but if not, if you listen to the voice, mixed race, half African, half English. My dad left me when I was a child, so my mum was a single mum, me and my sister, which naturally my life started on the back foot. I didn't realise that at the time, and being a loving dad to Charlie now, I realised just how much of a hole that left in my life not having a dad. So yeah, started at that as a young age, and then lived with my nana and granddad, until I was about 6 or 7. My mum had supported by them, two of the most amazing people in the world. Anybody listening to this, everybody has a special relationship with your grandparents, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And my nana, what a woman. So yeah, my life started then, and then at 7, we moved away with my mum and brought a guy into my life who was a stepdad. At that time, I thought all my Christmases had come at once, because I was seeing kids getting picked up from school, taken to football, having a dad, and it started to dawn on me when you're 5, 6, you start understanding the world a little bit, and people, if you go back to some of your earliest memories, that's when they'll be, when you really start realising what's going on. So I was loving life until I realised, after a few years of moving away, I didn't realise that actually this guy wasn't very nice, and me and my family suffered domestic violence. So we moved around a lot, didn't go to many, didn't settle in any schools. My educational journey was hindered, couldn't read and write properly, went to multiple primary schools, and I'll be honest, lived in cars. We was hiding, we was fighting for our life at times.
Talk to me about that, Mike. Talk to me about that. What was that like for you as a kid to go through that and live that reality?
If I'm being honest, it's only most probably in the last 2 or 3 years it's the first time I've tried to be able to, touch on that. And it's one of the reasons, because I needed to dig deep to realize why I was how I was, because actually when I became really successful in my eyes, actually my mental health hit rock bottom, because I couldn't realize why I was striving for financial security. And when I got it, I had an anxiety attack because I thought it was going to give me all the happiness I wanted, and it didn't solve one problem. It actually opened Pandora's box, and that made me dig into that point of, you bury it. Anybody who knows about psychology, as humans, we are fantastic at burying our problems deep. And you think you've forgotten them, and they haven't. They're underlying in your body and in your mind, and you act in certain ways, even if you don't know why, from what happened as a child. Just because you're not consciously attached to it or aware of it, it doesn't mean it's not dictating the way that you behave. You only learn that when you actually go into therapy, or you go and, and I always say the worst thing I ever did and the best thing I ever did was opening Pandora's box, because once you open it, there's no closing it. And, anybody who's on this personal development journey, I'm sure you'll resonate with this. Being self-aware is a great place, but a scary place.
And I suppose, getting for you to get to that level of self-awareness probably came with the catalyst to that was maybe having your success and realizing that wasn't the answer. And Jim Carrey, he has this quote where he says, I wish everybody could achieve their dreams for just one day so they could realize it's not the answer. And maybe that was the catalyst for you to do that, the inner work. And, it was maybe a scary place to be in, to realize that this success, this hasn't solved my problem. So let's go back and look at, you touched on your dad leaving you, and what age did he leave you?
He left before I was born. So he left before I was born, and again, because I never had a dad, I didn't really appreciate what a dad was. I knew what I wanted, and there was something missing. And then obviously the only father figure I had wasn't a role model. It was a horrible person. So, I had a fantastic role model in my granddad. Again, spent some, lots of time growing up with him, but I didn't have that role model in my life, and I didn't realize just how important having that male role model in your life is. Or a female role model. Your mum can play that part as well, or somebody in your life. And I always say, if you haven't got a role model in your life, you should try and find one. And if you can't find one, be a role model for somebody else, because there's somebody that needs it. And this might be deep, but if you are a father or a mother or anybody listening to this, and you have anything inside of you which doubts about you being a parent, leaving your child, or if you have left them, you make sure this triggers you to go fight to be that child's parent, because that child needs you and he needs the best version of you. And I tell you what, 7-year-old Mike would have given anything for a perfect role model to walk into his life, because yes, I could sit here and say, I've been successful and everything happens for a reason. But when I see Charlie's face when we was playing the football tournament at the weekend, and he wins that, and he comes up and hugs me, sharing that moment with Charlie means more than any millions of pounds you can put in somebody's bank account. So you make sure, if you're a parent, be the best parent you can.
How powerful is that? Wow. And, people talk about having role models is so important. And, obviously just Father's Day just gone. And, I'm like, in our family, we're not one huge for presents at my birthday, at anyone's birthday. We're just not big about that. But what we are big on is a really heartfelt card and time spent with each other. So every year, no matter if it's a birthday or Father's Day, I really sit down and, brings me back to my English lit days. I'm like, right, let's do a Bible out here, an essay, and, I think there's nothing more powerful, especially in today's day and age with developing AI, and you can script anything and that can be given to you. A heartfelt card, and it really got me thinking about my dad and the role model that he is. And I'm so lucky, much like Charlie as well, for you, the role model that he is and what he's taught us growing up. But imagine I didn't have that. And there's this conversation as well about anti-role models. If you don't have role models in your life, look at who you don't want to emulate, and look at the characteristics that they have and the behaviors that they have. And if you want success and they're your anti-role model, we just do exactly opposite of that. And we can...
And on that note, sorry to interrupt.
No, of course.
And Charlie, when I say that is, I actually thank and I got to a point in my life, there's two things I want to touch on is, I got to a point to my life where I needed to be able to say thank you for everything. And I needed to be able to thank myself. So I thanked my stepdad for everything he did because he showed me exactly what I shouldn't do. So when I turn around and Charlie, when I drop him off at school and I still make him give me a kiss and I still tell him I love him every single day, I lay with him in bed every night and he's like, Dad, can I have a cuddle and a kiss? And I'll do that till he's 15 if he lets me. Do you know, when I think about it, is because I just think to myself, they're the things. Don't pass it up. Don't rush out the door. Make sure you're saying, when I come in and I know my saying's morning, I walk through the door after getting up, 4 o'clock. The first thing as I walk through the door, I'm shouting up the stairs, morning, and I get a big morning back from him. And it's these things, those behaviours, no matter what goes on, he will remember that. And I remember it. Because what you just said about writing a card, people always say to me, oh, you always write really good cards. And you always speak emotionally. And this is the reason why I want to say this. And anybody listening to this, if you're a dad, a friend, a business owner, you're a colleague, just listen to these words. You can buy all the presents in the world, you can do whatever you like. But nobody in this world will ever remember what you say. They'll only ever remember the way you make them feel. And that's the difference. That's why people get a car and it don't mean anything. That's why you could get them the best card in the world, but if the words inside of it mean nothing, it doesn't connect. And if you think back to anything in your life that you love or hate, it's because it's giving you an emotional reaction. So you do more of what makes you feel good and you stay away from things that you don't because you felt something. So as I say, no one will remember what you say. They'll only ever remember the way you make them feel.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. It really is. And I suppose, that's how we formed such a strong bond, and how I've seen the evolution. And I just love that you have such an incredible work ethic, and the fact that, you're putting stuff out there for free. You're not doing that for a purpose. And if we look back, obviously we talked about the anti-role models, and you had that stepdad that come into your life, and you realize there was a domestic violence there. Was there a particular day, a particular memory that you have that strikes as being one of the
yeah, I can remember, and I need to thank and apologize to my mum, publicly when I say this out loud, because I'm saying it to myself. I spent so many years blaming my mum for what happened, but actually she didn't want that. She did everything she could to protect us, and at the time I didn't see that. It wasn't until in later life that I realised nobody asked for that. So, again, anybody suffering from that, you make sure that you understand that nobody asked for that type of behaviour in their life. So, I feel sorry for all the pain I gave my mother because I blamed her, because I needed somebody to blame and I couldn't blame that person. So, but when I say there was a moment and it was a trigger point when sometimes you have to have a really drastic moment in your life to change it. And a lot of people, experience it in different ways. And I can remember just making a noise upstairs with my friends, coming down, and I got dragged downstairs, kicked my friends out, and I was just making noise like you do as a normal kid. And then he battered me, black and blue. And that moment, family come together. The police said they want enough evidence to press any charges. We got an injunction, which was the most. It was ridiculous. And that was the severing point. There was a lot of, external behaviours on his behalf that came afterwards. But my mum, everybody got us safe, family wrapped around us, and it was the line in the sand. And I wish it could have, ended years before that, but it didn't. And I can remember that moment. I was just being a kid. But because somebody else had their own problems, there was a horrible person, they took it out on me. So, when you look at it, that moment changed my life. And that's when actually my life started to change for a different reason, because although we got away from that, we moved into a different situation, which was you're on your own, you're moving forward. I couldn't read and write properly. I had no education, and the damage I didn't even know was there, I was still mixed race. I moved on to a council estate and I was the only mixed race person. I can remember walking out the shop with a bottle of milk, and some guy going to me, give me that bottle of milk, you packy. I'm thinking, I've only lived here for a short period of time. I'm fighting on the street corner. I'm like, always trying to fight to be accepted. And that created some serious social anxiety that stayed with me most probably till I was about 35, till I understood what it was.
What kind of emotions do you feel when you look back at that kid, that council estate kid that seen that domestic abuse, that lived through that. If you look back at that Mike, if you know you had to walk into that house today and that Mike was sitting there, how would you feel for him? What would you say to him?
I think we need to say if I could say, and most probably something that my nana said to me, you know, that, and I've got it tattooed on my arm, you know, is you're stronger than you know, and everything will pass. And when it does, just remember life's for living. You can be anything you want to be, but you're going to have to believe in yourself. And when I say that is because at that point, every interaction I had with everybody, it was, are they going to reject me? Do they hate me? Will they like me? Will they be nasty to me? And I spent every day and every interaction in that. And I'd say, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. So for, you know, for that young Mike, I'd say, you know, just be you. Because the sooner you start being you, you can start relaxing. Because when I say start relaxing, I genuinely, every interaction with an adult, a kid, a child, anything was, I just wanted to be loved and accepted. I'd do anything for that. So I was never myself. If I was meeting one person, I'd be saying what I thought they wanted to say. I'd do things that I should never have done, you know, involved in, you know, drink, drugs, stealing, you know, fight, all those things, but not because of a place of I was a bad person. It was a place I needed to be accepted because I wasn't accepted and I wanted to feel accepted and loved. And some of the things I've done, you know, I'm really ashamed of, but in the same way as, you know, I've definitely learned from them. And anybody who's ever suffered social anxiety, and a lot of people might not understand what it is, but social anxiety leads you to do things you don't want to do, get involved in groups that you don't want to be in, all because you're too afraid to be you. And a lot of the time, people are afraid to be them because they don't know who they are. And you'll resonate with this. When you actually try and find who you are, I'm 3.5 years into my journey and I'm thinking 90% of the way there. I nearly know who I need to be. I know 90% of the things that I love. I know 90% of the things that I know don't serve me. And the other 10%, I will never know because I'm never stopping this, you know, continuous growth. So I'm going to move into new environments. I'm going to try new things. And when people think they've cracked it, then they're really vulnerable and they've got a chance of hitting rock bottom. You always have to give yourself 10% to know that you're always learning.
So Council Estate kid, he's getting racially abused. Where does Mike go from there?
I'll be honest with you, you know, there's a life-defining moment when I was 16 and I hit a crossroads. I had two options. You either continue on this road, you're off to prison, or you go to college and turn your life around. And I tell you, the amount of times I told this story and I still get emotional about it, you know, and I have to take a deep breath because walking into the college hall that loads of people will resonate on this podcast, sitting down thinking, which one of these courses is going to involve me not writing and reading? So I went straight to the sports desk and I sat down and the first thing they did, was like, do you want to do sport? Yeah. Got any qualifications? No. So I had to start at the lowest level, entry level 1. And if anybody doesn't know, that's like being in a primary school. And they passed me the enrollment card and I can see it now. And I kept passing it back to him and he passed it back to him. And he was, and then I had to swallow all my pride. And I remember this day going, I can't read it. I couldn't read the card to get enrolled into the college. And at that moment, that was the start of my new life. Got rid of all my friends, all the negative influences that you were speaking about earlier, and I was alone. I had my family, and I was alone, and I started to rebuild my life. So I learned to read and write, passed entry level 1, entry level 2. I got a smile on my face thinking, I was so proud when I started to be able to pass those, learn to read and write properly from magazines, newspapers. I can remember the TA, I was like, don't you dare tell anybody that I'm doing this, you know, because at that time, remember, I'm a council's kid. I've been involved in gangs, you know. I was this, on the front, I was this like big, bold character. And inside, I was a broken little child crying and ashamed and, you know, desperate. So when I turned that around, and then, yeah, next thing I know, I'm a trainee gym instructor on 4.5 hours a week contract. And I thought I'd made it.
I love it. It's, yeah, mate, I absolutely love this story. That's insane. And, you know, for me, outside in, looking at that you couldn't read, you couldn't write, I can't imagine what that must have been like. Especially even looking back upon reflection for that, and maybe the embarrassment, but the fact that there was enough pain for you to swallow that pride is so important. And Mike, there's maybe people listening to this podcast that are in those compromising positions, or in a group which isn't conducive to growth. They're part of a gang. They're doing things which they know is only leading to one direction. What kind of things were you getting involved with? Because I really want to be able to see, really want people to be able to see that evolution from, because, you know, where you are now, it's like, right, you've made it, right? For a lot of people, that's how they're perceiving you. And I really think that story is so important for people to see where you came from and the come up from that. So like, people probably listen to that. Like, what kind of things, what kind of people were you getting involved with?
Well, you thinking of this, I'll bullet point a few things of people. So, fighting, underage drinking, partying, driving around in stolen cars, delivering drugs for the local drug dealer so I could get some money. And as you know, because it's the biggest pain in your life is, so I could get a pizza, a quarter litre of vodka and 4 cans. So, you know, and nothing's really changed really, you know, apart from I don't drink the vodka. But you know what I'm saying? That is, I did that because I needed to get money, but also to be accepted. And that was the point. So being involved in, you know, drugs, drug dealing, fighting, gangs, you know, and I'll be honest with you, some of the things we did in our community, you know, harassing people, you know, being, you know, just not being a positive member of my community, in the same way as some of the things that I did at the time felt normal, but it wasn't normal. It felt like normal behavior because that's what you did every day. You went through that cycle. So if someone said, "Oh, you're coming over here and we'll get stoned," yeah, no problem. Coming over here, we're going to take this. Coming up, oh, should we get some drink from the shop and then go? Like, you thought it was normal because you're off to a youth club, but you was off to a youth club at 14 after drinking 4 cans and a quarter litre of vodka, and it's like, that's not normal. You know, you're thinking, but at that time, I'll be honest with you, I was never the instigator of that. I was a follower. I was a follower in this because I felt it was the first time of feeling accepted. And I totally get people want to feel accepted because acceptance feels safe. But if you're feeling safe at the detriment of your life and your progression and your family, you know, people will be 40 and still be like that. You need to be able to do the bravest thing. The bravest thing in your life is, you know, if you have that gut feeling thinking this isn't right, if when I touched on that social anxiety, that you think to yourself, I don't feel comfortable in this environment. I know I shouldn't be doing this, because actually I had some role models in my life. My nana, my granddad, my mum, you've got those people. They was good people. So I knew how you could live your life. It was there. But you need to be not blinded to it, to go, I knew what was right and wrong, but because it was too scary to not do what was wrong, you stayed in that position until it was too late, and then you have to hit rock bottom. So it was the hardest thing and the best thing ever in my life was to be able to leave that, you know, the violence, the drink, the drugs, because I would have been in prison, 100%. I've got lots of friends that I grew up with who are in prison, you know, not because they're bad people, because they made bad choices, you know. So that's when I'm saying, at that point, it's so easily done and your life is gone like that, you know. And that's when I say to people is, and I'm sorry because I get deep into stuff, but when I say to people, why do I send positive messages every day? Why do we need to break before we get better? Why can't we learn from people's mistakes before us? Why do people, if someone's got some tools, just because you're not suffering from mental health, it don't mean you don't need to how to protect it. Because when you get to the point when you're so low and you have the dark thoughts, that's why you kill yourself. Because you haven't got the tools. So we need to make sure that people know what to do when they're struggling. Start putting the things in place now. So you've got a big tool belt of all the things you need to do. Whether it's jumping in the speed, speaking to a friend, going to a therapist, breath work, exercising, just being around positive people, whatever it is, fill your tool belt up. Because one day you are going to hit a dark moment. And at that point, you need to be ready for it. Because I tell you what, since we've been talking, somebody would have died because they wasn't ready for it, because they didn't listen to a podcast. They didn't listen to the friend who said, go get some help. So that's what I say to people is, do the positive things now, because it's great that you get to listen to me and listen to you that have come back from some adversity, but you might not be there yet, but we're ready for it, because then you won't need to get as low as we did. But yeah, sorry, I get into it, but
that's what we want. That's what I want, brother.
Yeah.
I want to understand, I want to understand the real story. And there's a school of thought that you have to hit rock bottom before you make a change. And it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. As you said, if you implement those healthy habits when you're feeling okay, maybe even when you're feeling great, or maybe when you're on the way down, they will be the things that keep you above water when things go pear-shaped, and they don't have to go pear-shaped. And that's why I think
to you, Daniel.
Yeah.
You've suffered from anxiety, haven't you? Yeah, and so have I. So, did you know what anxiety was before you suffered from it?
I wasn't aware in the slightest, and I had people in my life that told me they were anxious, and it's something I feel guilty about till this day. I mentioned it on a podcast before. I had a friend growing up in school, lovely girl, and she told me that she was depressed, she was having issues at home, and she was anxious, and I remember just disregarding it. I was 16, 17, and I remember saying, it's all in your head. And how naive was I to go through life being able to cast judgment on other people's hardship, that it was just in their head. And it's something I feel guilty about to this day, but the only thing that we can do is try to be a positive force for the world.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, like, you don't know what that feels like until it's on top of you. But again, for somebody listening that maybe does, that maybe they're having that come onto them.
Yeah.
Now, what did that feel like for you?
So this is when the reason that's why I asked the question is because I feel, and I'm going to tell you a funny story that's not funny at the same time, is I wish somebody had raised awareness around what anxiety was before I suffered it. Because anybody who hasn't, I would never wish it on my worst enemy, because it is horrible. And it's like a secret gremlin that just builds and builds and builds. And I can remember when I had my first anxiety attack, I thought I was going to die. Genuinely thought I was going to die. I rang 999 and I was on the phone after Marie and everyone trying to calm me down, and I was like, I'm dying. And I'm ringing 999 and I'm going to the woman on the line. I said, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm dying. She goes, you're not. I said, yeah. I said, I don't know if it's, because I was Googling everything. I think it's anxiety. I'm having an anxiety attack. I'm having an heart attack. And she went, Mike, you're not dying. I said, how do you know? She went, because you're talking to me. You're still breathing. And I was like, that's the moment when I want to say to people is, you feel like you are about to die when you're not. And it's because anxiety creates such a panic, in your body, but it creeps on. So what I want to say to somebody is, if something starts as a little bit of a trigger in your mind that's there all the time, and it's like a little itch, yeah, that's the start of anxiety, because that's something that you're worried about. Anxiety is sometimes it's good. I'm giving a huge talk tomorrow for a huge corporate company, and I'm a little bit anxious because I'm excited, and it's going to, now because I'm aware of what it is, I'm like, this is a good thing, because that means I care. But anxiety comes around something you care about. But if it's around something you care about that's negative, you really need to listen, because that first negative thought that makes you a little bit anxious will build, and then it'll go from a scratch, yeah, then it'll become a really bad itch, and then suddenly it'll start feeling like right now, even though when I'm talking about it, I can feel it coming. It feels like you get goose pimples, your head starts, throbbing a little bit. And then you see your skin starts feeling like it's going. And then suddenly you start not being able to think. And when you get to the point when you can't think clearly, imagine someone just walked into your office, give you a microphone and said, I want you to sing your favourite song out loud in front of everybody. The shutters come up, you can't think of anything but that, and it's panic. And at that point, it's too late. You have to know that. Slow your breathing down, take yourself to a calm place, relax, start thinking, is there any evidence that's supporting those thoughts and feelings? And you'll watch your heart rate starting to slow. and your breathing will come back, and it takes time. But if I didn't know that, you end up ringing 999 like me or doing something stupid because it's pure panic. So that's it. So when the little itch comes, recognize it, challenge what that is. Is there any evidence that's causing that, to, that thought and feeling? If there isn't, that's your first thing. You get rid of it. There's no evidence why I should feel that way. If there is some evidence, you also know what you need to put right. So there's your answer. So they're the two things. But yeah, definitely, it is real. The more people that know about it and can educate themselves on it, we all experience it. It's all at different levels. But yeah, definitely, it's not something I want to relive.
What about the things that make anxiety worse and the things that make it better? We talk about things that make it better. And I think, from my perspective, we always, as humans, want to look at the accelerator. We always want to look at the things which is going to make us speed up, which is going to get us back into the green. But I think the most important thing at times can be getting really clear on your speed bumps and getting really clear on the things which is actually going to exacerbate the anxiety, exacerbate the low moods or the depression. For me, it was maybe alcohol, it was drugs, it was porn, it was caffeine. And getting clear on your roadblocks, on those speed bumps, so that we can avoid them or mitigate them or manage them, it's going to make it so much easier instead of choosing to climb Everest when we only need to climb a smaller mountain. Why put ourselves through that if we're aware of it? And again, as you said, awareness is the most important part of it. So it's actually, I think sometimes when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. So it's actually taking a minute outside of that scenario, zoom it out and ask myself, when is it at its worst?
Yeah.
What am I doing? What are my environments? What's my behavior like? And then where's it at its best? And there's going to be disparity between those two. And then from there, you can create a contingency plan. When I'm feeling that that's on the rise, okay, we avoid this. And for me, that might be alcohol, right? So for you, what does that look like? What do those roadblocks for Mike look like?
Well, I think that's the bit when I say to people, and I'm using one of your words that you always preach is like, what saves you, what saves you, what saves you. And you know that. Like, I know, my roadblocks are, if people think I'm crazy, why do you get up at 4 o'clock every day? I know if I don't get up in the morning, that when somebody says, what's your morning routine look like? And a roadblock is, if I don't do this, this. If I'm not, I tried to give myself a lane the other day, I got up at 4:30. Marie thinks I'm crazy. I'm like, so you're getting up at 4 o'clock, and then I need to get outside. I need to do some form of positive activity, not exercise. I just call it positive activity. And that can be going for a walk. That can be going to the gym. I've realized now, do you know what I love about it? Bearing in mind you're like, you're my coach, and I say this to you. I don't exercise to get fitter. I don't want to be a model. I exercise for my mental health. And I say this to you, I'm like, actually, when I'm trying to push all the weights, I don't really enjoy it. So when I said a year ago, when I figured out, actually, I really enjoy exercise for my mental health. Now there's never an issue going to the gym, because I used to create anxiety around, what happens if I don't get the right score in, if I don't hit the right timing, I don't do any of that. Again, when I said I couldn't have a normal online coach, which you're not, because I know you call yourself, it's like people class you as a fitness coach, but realistically, you're more of a life coach than a fitness coach, because 80% of what you do is not the programming, it's all the rest of it. So anybody who's one of your clients will know that, and that's the bit where, like, when you get your check-in, that comes back, you get all these excited voice notes or about everything but the exercise. And then it's at the end, and anyway, concentrate on this is what you need to do. But it's all about how you're going to get there. And I think that's the key, because you're concentrating on with everyone you work with, and this is where the message comes into, is doing what saves you. So when I'm getting up in the morning, getting some fresh air, going to the gym, and now adding a positive message to that, jumping in the sea, doing some cold water, getting to McDonald's every single day for 6 o'clock because I need to be there. And I cause myself anxiety trying to edit my video, because most people get editors, and I'm like me and my mate Best John. I've got 10 minutes in the car thinking I've got to get this done, because when I sit on the wall and we go sit on the seafront and just relax and take it in. And if I'm sat in the car and it's raining outside, or sat on the wall and it's coming in, and I've got up at 4, I walk in the house at 6:45. And as I said earlier on, morning, Marie and Charlie, I've been up for nearly 3 hours, but in that time, I've done all of those positive things, but I can't meditate. But I class that as my meditation time because I have worked through any problem, any bad dream I've had, any of the things I'm anxious about. So by the time I walk in at 7 o'clock, I'm like, let's go. Yeah, because I've dealt with all of those. And if not, I've set a plan to be able to move forward of how to deal with them. And the only time I can't do that, and this is where I take my hat off to you, because seeing you go away to, Ibiza with your friends, you set yourself up mentally, and again, I haven't said this to you, to enjoy it, not worried about the outcome. So many people will be going there already anxious about coming home. Have I put weight on? What am I going to do? How am I going to feel? Is my mood going to, rather than going, embracing it, enjoy it, knowing what's coming, and saying to yourself, well, in 48 hours, I'm going to feel all right because it'll be out of my system, I've flushed it, and I'll be able to look at all those amazing memories. But if the moment you get off the plane, all you're doing is getting on the scale thinking, oh, I've put weight on, I can't believe I did that, oh, I acted stupid, what did they think of me? Why did I do that? What was that post I did on Instagram? You just ruined, and I say all the time, and then I say, stop robbing yourself of your own happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things on that to make sure that we keep Mike's credibility here. You're going to McDonald's not for a Big Mac at 6 a.m. every morning. You go for your coffee. There's me thinking. I'm like, that sounds like you're smashing Big Macs at 6 a.m. The coach inside of me is always going to be there, mate. You know what I'm like?
Yeah.
I'm laughing. And then secondly, obviously, as you said, mate, being able to go on holiday and not worry about the aftermath with that has also taken me time. That's maybe taken me... Last year, I wasn't able to do that. And I didn't fully immerse myself into it. This year, different story. 2 reasons. Well, firstly, number one, obviously, if we gain weight, we know how to lose it. That's the most important thing. That's the beauty of this, right? That it's not actually being able to lose the weight. It's knowing how to, so that it means we don't need to stress about social situations because we put weight on. Great. If we want to drop a bit, we know how to lose it. That's the beauty of it. The principle never changes for our life. Number 2, managing expectations. Everything, in my opinion, is all about managing our expectations, because when our expectation doesn't meet reality, we're going to be disappointed. And when it does, it's so much easier to accept the experience. Like if I came home, so again, as I would say to you, to all of our guys and girls, to anybody, if you're going on a big night out, let's manage expectations now. That the day after, you might not be feeling 10-10. You might not be as strong as you were before. You might be up on the scales. But that's okay if you manage the expectation, because then you go into it knowing that that's how it's going to be, as opposed to expecting it to be 100% and then it's not going to be. And that's fine. It's like when I came back from Ibiza, I was like, oh, I feel my energy's a little lower, but that's fine because I've been on a bender for 5 days and that's okay. So it's so much easier to accept it. So I absolutely love that. But I think managing expectations is so key. And instead of robbing yourself of the present and worrying about the future, which hasn't even happened yet.
And I obviously didn't tell you that I was going to say this on the podcast today, but that's why I said that, because I've seen how happy you are coming back this year to when you came back last year. So that shows your personal development journey, because this year you genuinely, you could see that you was almost a bit anxious of like, you put so much work in to get yourself in shape to go, that, and then when you was there, and you could see this time you've come back and it's like it's all, and you feel it, because anybody who interacts with you will feel like it's almost like you've just had a recharge. It's like someone just give you another battery, and you've gone off again.
Everyone was like, mate, are you sure you were in Ibiza? They're like, mate, how are you? Or my mates from asking me, they're like, how are you okay here? And they're like, I'm on death's door. And I'm like, mate, I don't know, we're in the clear. It's like, when you wake up and you check for the offside flag, you're like, hold on, am I sweet here? And you go to the toilet and it's like, boom, it hits you in the head. I was actually all right. But I think that's so key, not robbing yourself of the present, not being anxious about the past, about something that can be changed, and not worrying about something that hasn't even happened. Again, as I spoke about in the last podcast, the Stoics, they talk about suffering imagined troubles. And, we suffer much more in imagination than in reality. And again, we know what that's like.
That's true though, isn't it? There's something I say to people, and I did a post on it, is you'll never have more conversations with anyone than you have with yourself. So this is why it's so important. People go to me, I get asked 2 questions. really strange because it's called Mike Bear's Positive Messages, but why are you always so positive all the time? And I say, first of all, I know what the alternative is, and I don't want to be there. Number one. And the second one is, I have to create so many positive thoughts and actions, and not affirmations, it's actions that I go through, which could be classed as an affirmation, but you do that because I have more thoughts in my own mind with myself than anybody else in the world, so I need to make it a happy place to be. And that's what anybody listening to this, you have to put the work in to make yourself mentally strong as well as physically strong, because you have more thoughts with yourself and your own mind than anybody else. So make sure that your mind is a happy place to be, not a bad place to be. And if it is a bad place to be and it's not healthy, make sure you're reaching out and getting that support today.
For sure. Getting that support is so important. Having somebody to lean on is really important. And rewriting your own story is really important. I think starting with how we talk to ourselves. I am lazy. As soon as you label yourself and say I am, you're rewiring your subconscious and you're reaffirming that story. And as I always say, and you talk about, we can write our own story. But when you wake up and you say morning, and I love that you've attached Mike Burton positive messages, even if there's times, because mate, you're human, right? There's days where you're positive, right? But the fact that you have labeled yourself as Mike Positive, you are looking for the positives in each day. And when we wake up and say, that's why I will say today's going to be a banger, right? Yeah. Today's going to be a banger. Even if we know it's not going to be, even if we think it might not be, as soon as we say today's going to be a banger, I'm feeling great, we start to look for evidence, right? Do you see that in your day-to-day?
Your turnaround is, I'm not religious in any way, shape or form. And I think these two things are really closely linked. I just believe in, karma and manifestation 100%. And this is what I say, if you put positivity out into the world, it'll come back to you. If you put kindness out in the world, it'll come back to you. You do the opposite, I guarantee expect your life to look shit like that. Because if you put negativity out in the world, you surround yourself with negative people and it'll come smack you in the face. If you go around being we like to swear on this podcast.
You could say you could drop whatever bombs you want, bro.
That's saying, if you go around being an absolute arsehole to people, expect people to be an arsehole to you. And I tell you what, it's not a nice place to be, and I promise you this, I walk around my town when I see people and I say morning, and people say, why do you say morning? Oh, it's twice as positive, isn't it? We've got a proper chance to start the day off. And that's it. And that's why, and that's it. People ask me, and then the final one when they turn around and say, and I'll be honest with you, it was something you said to me when we first started, and it's actually resonated with me. I finish every one of my videos with "Smile, it's a great day to be alive." Because I used to say that to myself, but you say something that actually ties to it. And it's something that really connected with me when we was first talking, is that, you're waking up today when thousands of people haven't. You said that, when we first met, and I was like, so why not use today to make a positive difference to the world? And I was like, right. And you said that, and you say it quite often, and it's a really powerful thing that people should remember. And when I say smile, it's a great day to be alive, it's like, it's exactly the same when you say, you've woken up today when, it's really strange how, like I say, it was like, and I talk about, this is tying that point, manifestation is, I said to myself that I want to do something bigger in this world, but I didn't believe in myself. Yeah. You was brought into my life to kickstart that journey. And when you say that, and now I can't even have a joke when you talk about self-talk, because if I go, run fat boy run, you're like, stop talking to yourself in this way, it's negative. I'm trying to have a laugh. And you are.
Anyone that's like, I said that, we were in a restaurant the other day, and somebody said something about themselves. It was actually about their weight, and I'm like, mate, be careful how you talk to yourself. And he's like, I'm joking. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Well, it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, people are probably wondering, right? Pride of Britain Awards, retired at 40. How do you get to that position? How did you get to the position where you were nominated for the Pride of Britain Award? Because I think it's an incredible story.
Well, it's strange, really, because when I started to turn my life around, I started as a gym instructor. Then I started as a personal training business. Then they asked me to start teaching kids to get fit to go into uniform services, army, fire service, police. So I did that. And then they said, oh, would you go teach the course that you first started on, entry-level sport? And I was like, me, a teacher, I'm a scumbag. No way. Talk about negative self-talk. I did that till about 35. I was the best at it. Anybody wants to know how to talk shit to himself, come and speak to me. I've got to write a book on it. But I did, because it was a self-doubt, because I'd never achieved anything. I'd never had a role model. I didn't have anything in front of me that says, this is what you should do, or this is how you could achieve. So they ended up offering me 17.5 grand a year. So I was like, I'll give it a go, definitely. Because back then I was thinking that's a load of new pair of trainers, and I was in business. So I was like, right. So I went in and started teaching these kids. And too many people in education just spoon feed kids the answers. So I did what everybody else did before to this hardest to reach kids in the country. Spoon fed them the answers, let them play football, got through the year, got paid. But just didn't sit right with me, because I was those kids thinking, these kids need more. So I just said, can I redesign the whole curriculum? And there was like, yeah, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I thought, right, what did Mike Burton, who couldn't read and write properly, hated education, what would have helped him? So I thought, what would have engaged me is if I could see videos. Bearing in mind, imagine now we're talking about this is all short, but if I could see videos and pictures, I could connect to it and I could write about it. Because when people just spoke, it didn't work. So I turned around and so I took videos and pictures of all the kids doing everything, and I've wrapped it all into their English, maths, everything was all around things they did, transformed it all. They all came off youth offending, 100% achievement rate, learned to read and write, and all went and moved on. People couldn't believe it. So I got nominated for a national award prior to Pride of Britain for being a positive role model, for changing the hardest to reach kids' lives in the country. Microsoft was the head sponsor. We was there, 7,000 people. Negative self-talk come in because the Equality and Diversity Officer said, I've nominated you for this award. First thing that comes out of my mouth, why you done that? The only reason I said why you done that is because straight away I've got something else to fail at. So then he goes, but then he'll walk away and had that little bit of a, this is all right, it's good. And then he goes, 7,000 people's been entered. I was like, straight away, negative. Got down to the last 200, made it to the final 3. Gala dinner on TV, Manchester, Midlands Hotel. I'm walking in there. Bearing in mind, I'm still fronting it up because I'm this kid off an estate, but inside I'm really insecure. I walk in the VIP area, and it was when the Paralympics was here. The Voice had just started. All these celebrities in there. I walked in and I was like, what the fuck am I doing in here? And I shit myself. And I was like thinking, because I did, as if I thought I was going to win anything. I didn't. The two people in my my category for positive role model was like a guy who was disabled, who went around Leeds, found places accessible for places like him. Absolutely amazing. I fell in love with him. He was winning. I went and found him straight away. I said, he made me feel proud of myself. The fact that I was recognised as, that was when I started, really feeling proud of myself. An Asian Businesswoman of the Year. So we sat down. And then I'm there, and I did what everybody does, when you get nervous and you're at an event. I got pissed on the free wine that was there, and I was thinking to myself. So I sat there, and the first event comes up, and so, like I was saying, Microsoft, big open speech, big screens everywhere, and it goes on, and the guy comes up and goes, through the power of education, so you won't be able to see this, obviously, because we're on a podcast, but lip reading, all the cameras come to me. I go on the screen, and I've gone, oh my fucking God, that's me. Everyone lip reads it, starts laughing in the whole audience because they've all seen it. So obviously they all can lip read. I've walked up there, no speech, spoke, and I couldn't believe it. So I won this award for being a national role model for equality and diversity for children. I can't even remember what I said, but on the back of it, Microsoft asked me to go speak at their head office in London. So I went to speak to their equality and diversity team. Bearing in mind now I go around and give talks. They sent me the thing through, which I have to share it all the time because it's so funny. The PA of the director of Leadership and Equality Diversity sent me an email saying, really privileged that you're going to come and speak at our event. Can you send me your stuff through for the auto queue? So I replied saying, what am I queuing for? As if I knew what an auto queue was. So I was like, what is this about? And then they kept asking me, you got PowerPoint? And I just kept saying the same thing. They just asked me to come and talk. I didn't know anything about inspirational speakers or speakers. I just thought they'd sponsored the event. It was something you did. They asked me for fees. I was like, fees? What for? I'm just going to drive down in my Golf, and come. So I turned up in my little white Ralph Lauren shirt that I wore every time I was doing anything smart, walked in, and there was 250 people there, and I was sat next to 2 inspirational other speakers. And I was thinking, what am I doing here? Even on the day, they was like, you got your stuff for a presentation? I said, no, you just asked me to talk. So everyone's there, these big, you can imagine this building, it was like Google, it was everywhere, brilliant. So I'm sat there and I can remember giving a tour, everyone spoke, and I went up and I spoke for 30 minutes, can't remember what I said about my life, sat down, so I finished, and everyone stood up and gave me a standing ovation. I was like, what's this? And then I sat down and this inspirational speaker who's like renowned, I can't mention the name because she got done for being corrupt in a charity, so I can't, so, you know, I got in trouble once before, so I can't, but she sat there and said, are you an inspirational speaker? And I said, no, I ain't got all those gimmicks and stuff. She went, no, you are the gimmick. You need to share that story. So then I started sharing my story, and I got booked up for 2 years because I had one day off from teaching in a college, and they wanted to pay me. So all the money I got paid, because I couldn't bring myself to take it, I created my own charity in my local area. So I was sharing my story, helping kids change their life on a day-to-day basis, and then giving inspirational talks and programs for the most hard-to-reach children across the country. And I took all the money they gave me, and I gave it out in my community, and I supported anybody who was talented in sport, because I live in a small town, and I gave them everything they needed to become a champion. So I gave them the clothing, the travel, everything. I gave all the money to them, and it grew. Sorry? Grimsby and Cleethorpes. So yeah, Grimsby and Cleethorpes, a little small seaside town. And because we're at the end of a motorway, nobody would come to us. It's not a city. So many talented people, and yeah, I've supported some of them, and some of them have gone on to be, you know, world champions, you know, Commonwealth champions, Paralympians. That was lovely. But because it grew, and I started it, people wanted to raise money for me, so I ended up having to start my own charity. But I wouldn't take any government money. So when I'm going through this, I end up raising £300,000, you know, giving it out to homeless, schools, everyone. But I didn't take one penny of government money, no national lottery funding, because I wouldn't have anybody tell me what I could spend it on. Because one example before I move on is, I was driving past a school and somebody had done an arson attack and burned the school sports shed down. So I was like, and I see them all there, and it was around the corner. So I walked in and I said to the principal, I said, oh, what's happened? Someone's done this. This was on Saturday. The kids are coming back on Monday. They've got no sports equipment. And I was like, I thought these kids can't experience this negativity. So I literally, you'll understand this because you know me now. I gave them a bank card and said, go buy everything you want. I'll come and see you on Monday. She said, what do you mean? I went, go to sports soccer, go to the shops, make sure the kids, when they turn up on Monday, they can do PE. Book the rest of the stuff, do this. And then I was like, so that was one example. And then I got a phone call one day saying, just to let you know, you've been nominated for Pride of Britain. I was like, that's enough. Then I found out I got made to the final 3. And as I said earlier on, when they came and they interviewed me and said, why are you doing it? And I said, I just wanted to make a positive difference. So yes, I didn't win. I made it to the final 3, but I was just over the moon to even be recognised. And that started that process then of, actually, I'm making a positive difference. So that's when I continued on from there and ended up opening my own school. So I opened my own school for children like me who's got ADHD, mild learning difficulties, social and emotional mental health issues. Opened a school. It was bespoke, my own curriculum, not national curriculum. Ofsted come and was like, this is unique and special. And then I ended up taking it from 20 kids. This was like alternative provision. That's the worst school in the world. Yeah. There was kids getting restrained, everything. But I went in, changed it with a couple of great directors, you know, brought some staff in, fantastic staff, changed it all. And we made a difference to 10 kids. Then it was 20, then it was 50, then it was 95. Then someone came along and saw my bespoke idea and they acquired my business, but they wanted to acquire me at the same time. That was the point when my life really changed because I got financial security. And I can remember looking at my bank account, sat on the toilet, and I had an anxiety attack again. And I had an anxiety attack. I walked out and I can remember saying to Marie, and I was panicking, and she was, what's up with you? And I went, I'm not happy. And she went, what do you mean? I went, not with you. Because not my whole life, I've had nobody to fall back on, no security, no financial, no role model, you know, and I'm looking at it. So I'd done everything thinking I need to look after Charlie, look after me, look after Marie, you know, because if I used to have 5 jobs, Dan. I used to have 5 jobs because I'd think I'd lose them all. So I scaffolded everything good. If I lost them 3, then at least I've got these. I was personal training, gym instructing, running a school, doing all these because I thought I'd fail at everything. So I scaffolded myself to protect myself from it. I didn't realise at the time. Now I do. It was ridiculous. There was no evidence telling me ever that I was going to fail. but I convinced myself I was going to. So when they came along and said to me, the purchase of school, then at that point, I invested all the money and gave it to Charlie, so he's set up for life, so if anything happened. And the guys who I came into business with said, we want you to help us make a difference to more kids with special needs. So I said, okay, I'll do that, give myself a purpose. When I can help create 1,000 opportunities for children with special needs across the country, create 500 jobs, help 25 local authorities, then I'm retiring. And at 39 years old, and after nearly 3 years from selling my school to investing in a new business, building it, the amazing board and stuff allowed me to retire because we did that, and we were continuing to help more children. And then, lo and behold, Mike Burns Positive Messages, next step.
I think we just need to sit for a minute and look back at, I can't believe that's, obviously I know your story, man. Hearing the individual details, I'm very rarely speechless, man. Very rarely don't know what to say. But honestly, from where you were to how you have grown to not only bring yourself up, but bring other people up. And there's obviously that there's such a innate drive within you to bring other people up with you, people that have the same disadvantages that you had. And, as you said, like, you get back what you give out, and you just give and give and give. And eventually you got it back. And at 39, being able to retire, having Charlie set up for life, what an incredible feeling. And as you said, like, when you did retire, when you did set Charlie up, how did that feel? Because a lot of people would think,
you got the truth.
You thought you've made it, and you thought, that's it. Like, I've got to the top. I'm on top of the world. How did it really feel?
I'll be honest with you. As you know, and I'm struggling to say it, I became lonely for the first time in my life. I felt really lonely. I felt I didn't have any purpose. I felt like the fire inside of me was dropping out. I've got ADHD. My mind went wild. I loved being around people. It all went overnight, and I was there. Marie saw it. Everyone saw it. So that's where I was like, my therapist told me prior to this happening, she went, you need to figure out. I was really lucky that I'd started Mike Burns Positive Messages because it was one focus I had every single day, and I thought I could transition into this, spend all day jumping in the sea, doing everything else. I was like, it only works for me, small time in the morning, then I've got the rest of the time. So after 2.5 weeks, I was like, right, as I said to you, said to my therapist, said to Marie, I need to do something. So again, I go back to not religious. I haven't even published anything yet, marketing wise. And I was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I told myself in my head, right, I'm off to Vegas, celebrate my 40th. When I get back, this was 3 months prior to Vegas, by the way. So I was like, I'm going to see if I can do some inspirational speaking, and I might see if I can do some educational stuff. And, I'm going to promote mental health. Next thing you know, bang, that week, phone goes, Humberside Police. Can we book you? We've seen you online. Can you come and do an inspirational talk for us at a large conference? I'm like, all right. Went and did the talk, loved it. Feedback was fantastic. Did it alongside the international John O. Lancaster. Do you know me? I was sharing the stage thinking, what am I doing here? I was jumping in the sea on Wednesday, and now I'm stood on the stage with a renowned speaker in front of the whole of Humberside Police Force. And then from there, more talks. Then I was getting asked to go into schools. Being asked to go on this podcast. Hopefully you can get on some more. Then I started becoming asked to support mental health ambassadors, doing certain elements, within communities. Just done some stuff with, agriculture, because the suicide rate in agriculture is going up. Helping people create schools for kids like me. Not because I want shares in them, just as a consultant to be able to go in and help them. And then what I really love is I've genuinely now made an impact in my community, because every day, as you know, when I'm walking, there's people wind the window down and they shout, morning, morning. There's people, speaking to me in the street, people saying to me, I've changed my life. 4 people have told me they didn't commit suicide because of the messages I've sent. That for sending 306 messages in 306 days and whether there wasn't lying when they told me, especially one of them, to know that you've potentially saved 4 lives from just trying to make a positive difference, take away all the being able to speak inspire children, companies, and working with some really large ones. That in itself, the two things that I love the most is 4 people's lives have been saved, and hopefully hundreds of people's lives have been bettered. And nobody shouts morning off, smile, it's a great day to be alive out a window if they're not taking it on board. So yeah, that when I say that to you, I started to hit rock bottom, and I realized I needed purpose, I needed structure, I needed my daily routine, and doing all of those things, and genuinely starting with a process of, because I'm so self-aware now, what do I want to do? I want to improve mental health in the country. I want to inspire people through talking, and I want to help people create educational establishments that cater for kids who just struggle. And it's just all coming to me without me marketing. And that's when I say, I'm not religious, but my world's manifesting in front of me.
The word purpose really sticks out to me, and people talk about rock bottom, and Will Smith talks about cliff top. It's the correspondence, the opposite end things. When you have achieved, when you do have the material things, you've got the family, you've got the car, you've got the money, and you realize, again, as Jim Carrey says, that it's not the answer, and you finding purpose seems to really turn that light on again. And if we look back at the past 12 months when we first started working together, obviously Mike reached out to me on Instagram. We started working, coaching together, and obviously people see me as a fitness coach, but I personally see, and I know you as well, it's much more than that. It's mindset, it's health, it's routine, it's energy, it's sleep, it's everything, and it's purpose, right? Because for me, it's like I see everybody that I work with as a family, right? That's how I see it, and I always say to everybody, I would die on the sword for each one of you, because that gives me purpose. It makes me feel like there's a reason to get up in the morning, and it's a strong why. So for you to have that purpose, you sought that. Those opportunities didn't just land on your lap. We spoke about what you wanted to do, and I remember you talking about your message, that you help the community. And I've seen a lot of people post videos on social media. Obviously, I came up on social media, I started posting, and things took off, and I see other people pop up. I see other people try. I can see when somebody has something. I can see that. You can see that. But I seen how you carried yourself, the message that you spoke with, the passion, the energy that you spoke with. And I said, this needs to go on social media. And you completely agreed. You were like, right, let's do it. And I suppose the difference between people that don't make it, or people that are successful, is, from conception of the idea to implementation, and it was instantaneous, boom, straight away. And credit to you, Mike. I've given advice to a lot of people about social media, and you're the one person that has, you've implemented straight off the bat and not missed one single day. So there's a reason why people have reached out to you. There's a reason why you've been booked for these talks. There's a reason why you ended up on Sky TV, on BBC, all of those things. And you left that one out. Don't worry, I'm not gonna let you leave that one out. I'll if you don't want to flex, I'll flex for you. But there's a reason why you have done the input, and that's led to the output. And we're sitting now 12 months down the line, 25 kilos down. You've retired. You've a new purpose, motivational speaker. You're impacting so many more lives. And I just want to say, mate, I'm really, really proud of you, and I hope you're proud of yourself.
No, and I think you've been a massive, massive, not just supporter, but somebody who, everybody needs someone in the corner. And I said that to you on day one, when we first met. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do in a gym or anything else. I need somebody to be in my corner, to be honest with me, to be my biggest cheerleader, my biggest critic, my best mate, And that's when I said to you, that's the difference, where it's just, and we're not selling your program here. It's nothing to do with that. This is about, is selling, when I say this is, if somebody wants to better themselves, it's not easy to do it on your own, because there's dark, lonely days. And I found that out on that message, what you just said. And if I didn't have you, if I didn't have my family, if I didn't have Big John, my close friends, at that point, it would have been so easy. Imagine having financial security at your fingertips so you could do anything to, entertain yourself. If you didn't have the right people around you, your world looks a hell of a lot different. And I say to you, it's anybody who's got an overactive mind, anybody who needs purpose, structure, loves being around people, make sure you've got a plan if you're retiring, because I tell you what, 2.5 weeks, I was ready to go insane.
I love it. I just love to see they come up. If we look at 16-year-old Mike, when he was past that slip to sign up to level 1 sports, and he could listen to this conversation, he could listen into the achievements, he could listen into how you articulate yourself, how charismatic you are, the things you've done, what would he do? What would he say about the Mike of today? What do you think he would feel?
Suppose I'm going to answer the question, but not entirely. I'm going to ask, and this is the thing is, you ask these questions sometimes, and the way I reframe it is, what will 16-year-old Charlie say about his dad? And you'll know where that comes from, because you're a nightmare for that question. And I say to myself, Jesus, compose yourself before you start talking, because when I start talking about him, it just makes me, I want to be the biggest. I want Charlie, when he's at 16, to look at his dad going, because he'll know everything by that time. Look at his dad going, he was the best dad in the world when he didn't have a dad. He was a role model to me and my community when there's so many people who wasn't role models. And he did everything he could to give me the best life possible, no matter the life he had. Do you know? So when I say that that's what I want someone to look at. And then when he sits there and knowing, no matter your background, be kind. If someone's done something well, give them a compliment. If you can offer a helping hand, offer it. And don't judge a book by its cover, because there's always a story behind the eyes. Do you know? And that's the difference when I say to people, and I want Charlie to be that, to look and go, yeah, 16-year-old Mike, no matter where you are at 16, you can still make a positive difference to your life, your community's life, and the world. And when I say that, at the beginning of my talks, I put a slide up that says, Mike Burton, champion in the face of adversity. And that's it. There's so many people, and that's what I want to show people, that no matter your background, you can be a champion. And a champion looks different for everyone. It might not be retiring at 40. It might just be piecing your relationship back together. It might be reconnecting with your son, your daughter, or just getting that dream job that you wanted. That doesn't need to be an astronaut. I spoke to somebody the other day and all they wanted to be was a receptionist. That's fine. If that's your world and it makes you happy, and that's it. So there is a champion inside of us all, and I just think, surround yourself with good people, put kindness out into the world, and it'll come back to you. You be positive, and positivity will come back to you. And yeah.
Mikey B, King of Cleethorpes. Listen, that might just be one of the most favourite podcasts that I've been a part of, and I just want to say thank you, mate, for coming on. I really, really appreciate you as a brother, as somebody I see as family, and mate, I honestly, I really enjoyed that conversation. I'm sure there's going to be so many people listening to that. There's going to be so many people that can't believe the story, and people at all ends of that spectrum, people that were anxious, people that grew up with issues at home, people that couldn't read and write, people that faced success and still didn't feel like it was enough, people that have kids. You've gone through so many hurdles and you're coming out the other side, and I know that there's going to be more down the line, and you're still going to keep persevering. It's it's the ability to feel any feeling and still perform anyway, and that's why I love you, mate. And listen, I just want to say thank you, mate, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I know on your IG you always ask 3 questions, but the one question that we want to ask the boss man, which I know is your favorite, what's the favorite takeaway, brother? Hit me.
Favorite takeaway of life or from the podcast?
No, favorite takeaway food wise.
Oh, mine. Oh, mate, you've got me with my own question.
I know.
Yeah.
You love this.
Fantastic. Right. Right. Big. There we go. Right. Favorite takeaway. Wow, this is going to sound proper greedy, but right, I need to have a mixed kebab with onions and peppers all mixed in, chips with spice on the side, 3 pots of garlic sauce, and a garlic, onion and cheese pizza. Bang, gone. Oh yeah, sriracha chili sauce. Got to keep that at home though. Don't do that at the takeaway. So yeah, that's it. So that's it. That's the one.
That's probably one of the best answers that I've been hit with. So mate, listen, I appreciate you. If there's is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
Naturally, when I say this, I'm not selling anything but positivity. So if you want to join my positive family and, let's make this world a better place together, because the final thing I say is, you've made my world a better place, Daniel, by believing in me. And that's not for bringing me on here. That's from believing in me from the first day when I was sat on a rock at a beach, doubting myself. So thank you. You're an absolute fucking legend. And the final one is this. Daniel can't do this. I can't do this. Nobody can. Nobody can make this world a kinder and more positive place to live on their own. But we can make a massive difference together. So please follow me. I want to follow everyone's journey, and let's make this world a kinder and more positive place to live for ourselves, our kids, our friends, and our family.
And where can people find you?
Instagram, Mike Burton's Positive Messages. Facebook, Mike Burton's Positive Messages. And I'm having to play around with TikTok. But yeah, go with those two. Those two will be amazing. And if you're a business, hit me up on LinkedIn, because now I'm loving speaking with schools, businesses, about inspiring their staff in more ways than one. But yeah, Instagram, get me involved, Mike Burton's Positive Messages.
And I can say with chest, you'll not be disappointed. Anytime I pull up a video, I always feel better afterwards. So I thank you, man. I appreciate you big time. And listen, thank you for listening to another episode of the Daniel Dargan Podcast. It's been one of my favorite episodes that I've done to date. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Big love. And oh yeah, and as a wise man once said,
let's go, baby.
Let's go. Come on.